How's it going, mate? Always clean your lens. I'm in Thailand at the moment, in Koh Tao, which is a small island just off the coast. And today I'm going to be giving you one easy technique or trick that's going to enable you to instantly make better travel videos when you implement this in your filmmaking. So what is the trick? If we rewind a little bit, humans as people, we are creatures who respond to change. Our brains subconsciously respond to things that change. Things that stay the same, we get bored. If I look at the sea the whole time, it might be amazing for the first 5 minutes. I might look at it, think, wow, look at the sea, look at the sun, look at how this is hitting it. But if it stays the same, literally the same, for an hour, then even if I try and think it's amazing, my brain's just gonna switch off. But if suddenly there was a massive shark that leapt out of the sea and ate a flying octopus, then my brain's gonna be like, whoa, change, cool, awesome. However, that sounds obvious. On the flip side, if I saw a shark eating a giant octopus flying out the sea, but then that happened again, and then again, and then again, and it happened for literally 24 hours, eventually my brain would get bored and just think, oh great, it's another massive flying shark eating a flying octopus. I'm not even interested, mate. So everything's relative. Our brains respond to change. Now you're probably thinking, Tom, what are you talking about, mate? Why are you talking about sharks and octopuses? Well, this is important in your filmmaking because we can use this to our advantage. Sounding like an army officer. We can tactically and strategically use this within our films. Because basically, if you are making a film and you cut together a sequence that's like 30 seconds long and nothing really changes in the pacing of the video, in the content of the video, it might still be amazing, it might still look incredible, but if nothing changes, then your video is not going to be as effective in your viewers' minds. It's not going to emotionally resonate with them as much, and more importantly, it's not going to engage them as much. They might even click off. So this is why it's important, is that changing something in your video, changing anything, and we're going to talk about what exactly you should be changing, how you can change that. Changing something in your video is really important to keep people engaged, to keep people emotionally resonating with your content and just smashing your vids out the park, getting them views, getting them whatever you want. Maybe it's just to have one person shed a tear. You never know. I don't know which kind of films you guys are making, but we're going to be getting into the how right now. That rhymed. Just before we get onto that, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on that analogy I used about the sharks and the octopuses. You probably can't relate to this as a filmmaker, so I'm going to tie it back into filmmaking. What I'm saying is that if something is a big action sequence, if you have a 2-hour film, for example, Hollywood made, and it's literally fighting non-stop, and the fighting doesn't change in pace, it doesn't change in rhythm, it's literally 2 hours of people beating the shit out of each other, it's not going to actually engage you that much. It probably will in the first 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes if it's pushing it, but if it's literally fighting at the same pace and rhythm, even though it's up here, even though the energy of the fighting is up here, it's not going to engage you unless it dips down for a bit and then goes back up, because that's what our brains are paying attention to. So now we get onto the how, and the first tip I'm going to give you for how to implement this into your videos is using rhythm and shot length. So within our travel videos, especially within montages, we're going to have slow moments and fast moments. And one of the most effective things you can do is have a lot of fast shots one after another, and then have one shot that stays a longer length and slows everything down. So rather than me just explaining this, I'm going to give you an example right now. Another example you can use this in your videos, rather than within the space of say 20 seconds of having fast, slow, fast, you can also use rhythm and pacing throughout the video. So this is really helpful, especially when you're using a song, when you're using music. You can go to the music, you can reflect the music in your video. So if it starts slow and goes faster, that's great. You can start with slow shots, you can start with content that is more dreamy, perhaps, if it's a slow kind of dreamy section to the song, and then suddenly the drop comes, and then you can cut to action. You can cut your shots faster, you can cut to more exciting things, And that leads us on to the next point, which is contrasting shots. This is a really important technique on playing with this contrast and relativity within your videos, is changing the content, changing what's actually happening within your shots. You might not even have to change the actual rhythm and pace of your video, as long as you have one section that contrasts dramatically with another section in terms of the content of what's happening. This is why I personally love using micro-narratives within my video, which is another topic entirely, but this is why I like building mini scenes within my video, because you have one entire scene that maybe lasts 20 or 30 seconds, and then you move on to another scene. And each of those scenes have different rhythm, has a different pacing within it, but it's the content that's changing. It's physically the location of the scene that is changing, of the film. So that's what keeps people engaged, is having one scene, then another scene, rather than a big kind of wishy-washy visual montage that is just a ton of different shots. It's actually easier to play on contrast and relativity when you have a few different scenes, because the actual content of what you're producing is changing.
Everyone keeps a darker place.
Okay, so the final tip number 3, is the difference between using music and not using music. You'll often see videos that use the same track for 3, 4, 5 minutes. And they can be good as long as you are putting insane content, insane shots, insane transitions, edits into that video to make it engaging, or even more importantly, it has a narrative, which is probably one of the most important things that we're not really covering in this video, is having a storyline, having a narrative. But if you don't necessarily have the absolute best footage in the world, or you don't have an amazing, captivating story, an easy way to use that change and use that relativity within your video is by sometimes having a track and sometimes not having a track. This is what I did in my Thailand video last time I was here, almost a year ago now, which is crazy to think about in itself. I used 2 different tracks, and I had a section without any music at all. And I really wanted to put this in because if I found that I used the same track over a long period of time and then stopped it, it suddenly got people's attention, because I suddenly replaced the soundtrack with sound effects and sound design of the sea or whatever that was going on. And then suddenly it just creates a new environment, a new atmosphere in the video that people can pay attention to.
You say you wanna get so high, breathe me in like air tonight. Listen to the way.
Side note, I also had some of that footage I wanted to use. I felt that having a track didn't really do it justice, and I wanted to have shots that were much longer than the track's beats, and I didn't want to keep on cutting to the track's beats. I wanted to kind of mix it up a bit. So it worked well in using that footage, and I thought, you know what? Not having music here would do this footage way much more justice than having the same track that didn't really suit these particular clips. So you can feel free to get creative like that as well, and don't feel constricted to the same 3 or 4 minute track. Travel filmmaking, it's not all about just making music videos. This is another kind of mistake that people seem to make, is that they think, I need to make my travel recap video, I have to have one track and have to fit it all into this one 3 minute section. It doesn't all have to be like that, and you can mix it up a ton as well. Another thing that you can do is that, as I kind of hinted at, is that I use 2 tracks in the same video. With music, you don't have to stick to the same track, and you can play on this contrasting relative thing by having one track and then having a different track, fading them into each other, or cutting them completely separately as different scenes, or maybe fading out to having sound design for a little bit and then into a different track. This can really add some kind of punch, some change to your videos that's going to help keep people engaged, keep your videos exciting, and avoiding that horrible kind of situation where people might click off your videos, or kind of even worse, in front of you when you're showing somebody just kind of going on the phone. Oh yeah, no, it's a good video, yeah, it's a good video, mate, yeah, really good. You don't want that situation, mate. Fuck that. you want to have them engaged, you want to have them looking, you want to have them involved in the video. And I really hope by using this technique and some of the tips in this video that I've given you today, you can do this very effectively. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep on filming. Speak very soon. Bye-bye.